The 2025 NFL draft class might not be the most exciting class, especially considering what we just had in 2024, but that doesn't mean there are players who aren't worth discussing. And I believe the deepest position group in this NFL draft class comes from the running back position. I'm pretty sure we're all aware of Ashton Jeanty and the year he had, but even past him, there are so many players within this draft that can be great RB1s to great RB2s. And that is what we will be talking about here. Now, usually I prefer to talk about top 10s for each position group, but with how deep this is, I want to actually mention the players who missed the top 10 for me. So just a quick mention to the players from 15 to 11, those players being Ja'Quinden Jackson, DJ Giddens, Raheem Sanders, Rashad Smith, and sadly, Devin Neal. I originally had Devin Neal in the top 10, but had to leave him out due to just how many other running backs I wanted to put over him. He's still elite though. Moving into the top 10, at number 10, we have Cam Skattebo, or as I will probably call him in the NFL, the white silverback gorilla. I was first exposed to Cam in ASU's game versus Utah, and I was shocked when I saw this man shake off like half Utah's defense. I honestly just thought I was tired and I was seeing stuff because the game was late, but nope, he ended up being just a tank throughout the rest of ASU season and almost single-handedly carried them to an upset versus Texas in the playoffs. I mean, it seemed like he was trying to do his best Taysom Hill impression, honestly. He played running back, receiver, and quarterback all in the span of a singular game. And he is the sole reason why ASU overprojected their standings this year. Now, outside of his versatility, yes, Cam is also just, again, a tank and can run through everyone, but not like Ashton Jeanty, where Ashton can use his athleticism to make people bounce off of him. Cam just runs forward and wants you to outmuscle him. He isn't a burner by any means. There are guys on this list that are 10 times faster than he is, but he won't need to be a speed guy in the NFL. Next up, we have one of the most intriguing prospects here because of his play strength, and that is Texas Tech running back Tahj Brooks. Now, why do I say that? Well, he has one of the most fascinating strengths to anyone in this class, and that is his vision/patience. In my opinion, watching him run is like art, and you can have every lane filled up with defenders, and instead of running head first, he will just wait for one little opening and take it. He isn't that fast by any means, especially compared to this class, but he has such a fun aspect to his game that he will be sure a decently high pick in this draft because of his strength. Take this play, for example, where he has to slowly walk up past the line of scrimmage because he has a defender in his face, ends up juking him and the defender behind him for a gain when it could have been a loss. Now, I don't see him as an every down back because of his lack of speed, but if you're an NFL GM who wants a very good RB2 who can be a good change of pace back, this is the guy you'll be keyed on because of his very attractive traits, especially if you're an NFL team who just doesn't have the best offensive line. Moving forward, we have Michigan backup to starter Khalil Mulligans, and yes, I wanted to preference that because Donovan Edwards was hyped up and he ended up just being not good at all. Khalil Mulligans is actually similar to a prospect I had just mentioned previously in Raheem Sanders, as they're both very big running backs. However, I think Khalil is just faster, so he makes the list. Also, outside of his bigger bodied frame, another positive to his game is that he has pretty good footwork and it allows him to break tackles pretty consistently. A former prospect that he resembled to me was Braylon Allen and his whole playstyle coming out of Wisconsin last year. So if you were a fan of him last year, Khalil is someone you would want. He isn't the most flashy player you'll see on this list because you will see players with very similar skill sets that are just faster, but he isn't a bad prospect by any means, and he will be a good RB2 in this league. Coming in at number 7, we have someone others might have a lot higher compared to me, and that is Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. Now, getting the obvious out of the way, yes, this guy has a ton of speed. And to me, while yes, that is a great thing, it can't exclusively be your main trait. And one thing you'll know about him is that he isn't big at all, so an arm tackle can pretty easily take him down. He also, to me, just doesn't have the best vision in this class, and he's a one-way type of running back where when he sees one lane, whether it's open or not, he will take it. And finally, he has a fumble problem and can fumble in crucial moments, but that speed really does shoot his stock up, and it is why an NFL team will take a chance on him. Am I saying he's a bad player or will be a bad player? No, I'm not. I just don't think his speed can fully mask some of the concerns you will have with him if you want him to be a consistent RB1 to RB2. I can see him as a change of pace back, but I'm not super high on Dylan Sampson. Now we get into running backs that I believe can be real starting running backs for NFL teams, starting with Jordan James from Oregon. Jordan James is also in that area of being a bigger built running back, like a lot of them in this class, and it allows him to be a pretty consistent runner. He doesn't have insane home run speed and can take a 80-yard run to the house by any means, but his speed is still very solid nevertheless. He also shares very good contact balance and has very good footwork as well. One negative for him that I would like to talk about is that he can sustain injuries pretty consistently, including his last game as a Duck at the Rose Bowl. Now, the only real injury he had suffered was a concussion in the Rose Bowl, but he has had times where he had to be taken out of games for a bit to be checked on, and that isn't the most promising thing if you're an NFL GM. But honestly, outside of those slight concerns, he is still a very polished running back and will be a good RB1 in this league. We now enter the top 5 with quite possibly the most underrated running back in this class and the my guy of this year,
Bashal Tutin.
Now I know when I said that name, you might wonder who this is. Well, I'll be glad to tell you. Brashel is possibly the fastest running back in this class, but speed isn't his only story, believe it or not. Unlike Dylan Sampson. His speed to me is the speed I love when you're able to shift gears from the first level to the second level, and that is what makes him an attractive player to me. Because being fast truly isn't the only story. You have to be able to shift gears from the first gear to the second, especially once you hit the open field. He is also a very good receiving back as well and can run routes honestly pretty well. My only real knock with Brashel is that he doesn't have any real good vision and won't try to look backside for any possible openings. He's also kind of light, but not as light as a guy like Dylan Sampson is, so he can run through tackles in my eyes better than Dylan. Brashel is a very fun prospect, and he is the my guy in this class, and I'm excited to see where he will end up in this league because I think he could be a real RB1. And I was personally pretty high on Bucky Irving, so I kind of know my things when it comes to running backs. Going into the top 4 now, we have someone who a lot of people might have top 3. I have him here at 4, and that is Caleb Johnson from Iowa. I don't give too many comps because it's kind of hard to compare people, but for me, when it came to Caleb Johnson, I saw a lot of like Jalen Warren or Kenneth Walker in his game. These are guys who are bigger built running backs, but they can have some speed to them. They have a motor. Caleb Johnson is like an all-around good running back to me. He doesn't do anything particular that's top of this class, but he is just a very well-rounded running back. Some people that's really good. I don't think it's bad. I just think that I would like to see him elevate his game to have one very attractive trait. It's hard for me to really say anything bad about him. He's just pretty good at everything. That's pretty it. He's a pretty bare bones in that sort of middle range running back 1. But moving to the top 3, and a guy that I do have over him, TreVeyon Henderson, the backup to Quinshon Judkins, but really should have been the starter because he's better. I'm not high on Quinshon at all. TreVeyon is very similar to Caleb Johnson. They are both good at a lot of things. However, to me, TreVeyon showed more flashes at having a faster motor and is also a better receiving back to me than Caleb. Those flashes of having a real number 1 trait to your game is why I factored in him being above Caleb Johnson. Because he showed that he can have factors of his game to elevate him to a legit running back 1 instead of just being a middle-of-the-pack RB1. The only real knock on TreVeyon Henderson to me is that he isn't a bigger built guy. He's kind of short, honestly. And that is where Caleb Johnson, in my eyes, does have the advantage over him, but not by that much to where I'd prefer Caleb over TreVeyon. He'll be a great steal in the second round. I think he'll go there. He'll be a great steal for a team that wants a potential RB2, but he'll end up being the RB1 by the end of the day. And again, I know Quinshon Judkins didn't make my top 15. I'm not high on it at all. I don't think he has good speed. He shouldn't have been the starter in my eyes at Ohio State, but whatever. Now we enter the top 2, and I feel like everyone has the top 2 pretty consistent, so I won't spend too much time on it. But at number 2, we have Omarion Hampton, whose whole thing is just speed, speed, speed. But it's not just his speed that makes him a very attractive prospect. He's also a bigger bodied running back, so his ability to shave off tackles is also what gives him an advantage over other motor guys in this class. You're most likely going to see Omarion break away a 6-yard tackle consistently in the NFL. He is just that electric with his size and speed. But obviously, at number 1, Ashton Jeanty. What's new? Top 2 in Heisman voting, one of the most electrifying players this year in college football. His ability to shove off any tackler, including defensive tackles, is just so much fun to watch. It's insane. I don't need to spend too much time talking about Ashton Jeanty. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about him at this rate, so I won't. I will wonder where he goes because even though this NFL draft class isn't that top heavy, with how many great running back prospects there are, he might slip out of the top 10 due to teams seeing other prospects in this class, but obviously we won't know till April. This is a very fun class, and I'm going to have so much fun watching these running backs in the NFL. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of someone who didn't make this list, I loved a ton of guys in this class, and it's just hard to list everyone in a pretty deep class. And following the running back positional rankings, we're going to be talking about the defensive tackles next because that is also a pretty nice class, all things considered. If you like what you see here, please end up subscribing. I'm hoping to get this thing really kicking off soon, and I'm hoping to have that defensive tackle video sometime out within the next 2 weeks.